because I know the Red Sox had gotten in trouble. I had heard rumblings that other teams were partaking in, let's kind of use video, or let's kind of stretch how far we can go.
Kind of.
Or maybe didn't get caught.
Right.
Where do the Astros fit in? Did they just take it the furthest and got caught? Or and is there anything about that people really don't know about that entire story?
Yeah, so there's like two things that I say that pertain to the Astros and the Dodgers, right? Like there's two very real kind of theories that Astros fans can't quite bring themselves to accept, and the Dodgers fans can't bring themselves to accept. The Astros fans need to understand that there was like this level of like cheating, right? So everybody's here, you're manipulating the video room, the replay monitors, all that stuff. Lots of teams were doing that. The Astros took it to real time, right? So they banged on the trash can. So it wasn't just when the runner was on second and able to relay the sign. It was every pitch. They knew it was coming. And you guys understand more than anyone what you can do to a changeup when you know it's coming. Right. So the Astros went here, right? So there's like this area. So the Astros took it to a level that the other teams didn't, which does not mean that the other teams were not doing their fair share of cheating, because a lot of them are with the replay monitors. Dodgers fans need to realize the Astros were not most likely were not doing this at the World Series, especially at Dodger Stadium, not their home ballpark, and they probably would have won the World Series anyway. So the Dodgers are just like, the Astros never would have had a chance to win this World Series. And that's probably not true. So there's two like things that, you know, it's very painful as a baseball fan. It's very painful for whatever you have to absorb about your team. And I feel very sorry for the Astros fans because they didn't do any of this, right? And they're the ones that have to kind of suffer. And it's been a brutal year from that standpoint.
Do you think baseball is in a good spot right now? And I don't know, like I'll edit it, but like I don't know if you're contractually obligated to answer that question. But we see the cuts in minor league baseball.
Right.
We see everything that's happening to the minor leaguers. We see the popularity of like more than baseball and what it's doing for the game. And I guess in a way, showing what Major League Baseball in a way isn't doing. It's not our goal. Like we just want to work with everybody, but between what happened with the Astros not punishing anybody other than AJ Hinch, who just got a job back in baseball, to not getting rid of their World Series, to who was the manager of the Red Sox getting his job back?
Alex Cora.
Alex Cora. Is baseball in a good spot right now moving forward?
Well, I think that after what's happened in 2020, I mean, I don't think that we can all say like that anything is in a good spot. And obviously, I mean, it was not good when there were teams that decided not to pay their minor leaguers when this whole shutdown happened. And that got corrected a little bit. I mean, the people are getting laid off left and right, you know, entire departments are being wiped out. You know, as far as the Astros, like, I know that that's the narrative, like they didn't get punished. I would counter that there were people who got punished. I would say that AJ Hinch, his life was completely demolished. I know that people don't really care about that, but there were people who did suffer, and there's a lot of the psychological effect on a lot of these Astros players. I was there only for a couple days at spring training, covering the Astros for like 3 days, and then the shutdown happened and right in the middle of that. But I got this terrible vibe. I mean, they did get off easy in the fact that they played in front of no fans, which was, you know, you hate to say that they benefited from any of this, but they did, because that's why they hired Dusty Baker, like to keep these guys' heads on straight when they were going to get absolutely tortured in every ballpark that they went to. But I would say that there is, you know, the legacies have been tarnished. You know, Jose Altuve may never, you know, mentally be the same again. I mean, a lot of these guys took it really hard. So you couldn't just suspend all the players. You either had to punish them or you had to say, we're not going to punish you. We want to know what happened. And I think that the commissioner wanted to get to the bottom of what happened so that he can make sure it doesn't happen anymore. And so he needed the truth. And so how are you going to get the truth if these guys know they're going to be punished? Like, you're not going to get anybody to cooperate. So I think that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah, I agree. The pandemic certainly overshadowed what they had coming to them. this year. I mean, we saw during spring training. I know how much that would affect me, regardless of how they did and what accolades that came their way to these last couple of years. When you have the fans bringing that much hate, and you get for cheating, like I knew, like I could only imagine. Like I felt bad for him. A part of me felt bad for him, but another part of me, as a player, knows that if I had opportunities, like I look back at my first couple seasons, and opportunities in the major leagues are hard to come by sometimes. Like that first impression, you want to make it great so you could stick around for a long time. And when you know what's coming, it really increases your chances of having success those first couple of years. So there are a lot of players that they made a lot of money off of knowing what was coming when you have that for a whole season. But I know you still have to hit it, but yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I'm just glad that baseball's here. Those players they're going to get past it somehow. But you're right, their legacies have been tarnished. And I was mad, angry, but now I do feel bad for them because they wanted to win. It was that competitive edge. It's like, oh, we have a chance to get these signs right here, and they knew what they were doing. Like, it's wrong. They're like, okay, like let's keep it a secret, but it's so much fun hitting all of these home runs right now. Let's keep this going.
Well, and that's, talking to a couple of people that were sort of involved, they were doing it like in games against the Mariners. Like, do you need to win 17-1? And it sort of started so kind of organically. Like one guy started doing it, and then the next guy was like, "Oh, this is interesting." It wasn't like they had some kind of meeting, in the back of the clubhouse. Like, here's what we're gonna do, and it just sort of snowballed. And there were guys that did not want to know what pitch was coming. I mean, you guys know, like when you get to a certain level of like these elite major leaguers, I mean, there are guys that Lance Berkman once said, he's like, I didn't want to know what pitch was coming because I felt like I had to swing at everything. he needed to just react to what was coming to him. And there are guys that did not want to participate in what was going on at 17. But it was a lot of these just like August games against these terrible teams. It's like, what are we doing? And
with nobody in the stands. With nobody in the stands, with being able to hear the trash can very loudly. Like when John Boy did his entire let's investigate that, and then someone made a database of every single time that a trash can was hit, I think the initial reaction was, how crazy is it that a team, an entire organization kind of let that happen? I don't know the full story of AJ Hinch, right? I know that he tried to stop it. I know that sometimes he let it happen. Did he not have control of the team, or was he like, well, I think we're going to get away with it, so we might as well continue to do it?
Yeah, he didn't like it. I mean, he said on the record many times, like he didn't like it. He destroyed 2 monitors with a baseball bat. It's one of those. It happened like in sort of a segment of that season. It wasn't over the entire season. It was a long time, but the role of the manager has changed over time. And after they won the World Series, I think that he felt a little more emboldened, and it definitely became more of like his clubhouse. But I think it did reflect on, and I think that's why a lot of people in the industry, a lot of GMs, a lot of people that understand the dynamics of what the clubhouse is today, really understood AJ's plight in all of this, and that he didn't like it. He wanted to stop it. He didn't feel like he could take it to the level of like holding a meeting and screaming and yelling and saying, stop this. And he knows that that's going to be, what follows him is that he was, sitting right there. I mean, he heard the trash can bangs, and he just didn't do enough to stop it. I don't think this was like permeated through the front office. I don't think that everybody was in cahoots. I think everyone knew about, that level that I've said about like manipulating the replay room. But as far as like the trash can banging, I mean, I really don't think that this was like an organizational wide thing that filtered all the way to the front office. You wonder, like, did umpires hear it? What about the people like in the Diamond Club that are like sitting right there, right by that tunnel? You just wonder if people noticed it.
Teams noticed. Teams started to notice there were things circulating around.
Oh, teams
like
did.
People, they were talking about hearing weird noises out of the dugouts. Absolutely. Guys calling timeout. Like after a while, it became pretty well known that they were doing something, but nobody could exactly, they weren't getting in trouble for it until they eventually did. I feel like this could be a movie. They could make a legitimate movie about the origin, like how it all started, and having different perspectives, like a player's perspective being showcased, Hinch's just showing that inner struggle, him wanting to stop it, but the team's winning. You only have so much control as a manager too, especially nowadays. Things have changed quite a bit in the last 20 years with the manager's role. But it would
Yes.
make a great movie.
Chase,
Yeah. Well,
when you were with Texas, did you play the Astros AAA club, and was there anything that they were doing at the AAA level to?
Yeah. We heard sounds coming from the AAA dugout. We
oh
did
no.
a
Oh
little
no.
bit, but it's
Just
hard.
wonderful thing
It's
now.
hard not to want to apply it though. You know, like if you're up there, because we got guys like Straw and a few others that were going up and down pretty frequently. And when it's just that easy and you have a live feed, it's not that hard to replicate it and just go down there and see it, and then down in the tunnel,
Yeah.
a little something. But you just mix it up. We would mix up our signs a lot.
Yeah.
You just got to deal with it. Yeah, you got to deal with it. It is what it is. You can't just let it happen. So, we had a different system whenever we played them.
That's when you look back at the 2018 ALCS, that's what kind of makes me laugh now, because these games were excruciatingly long. There
Mhm.
were a million mound visits. There were, I mean, and everyone's like, what is happening? Well, now that the dust is settled, so we have the Astros and the Red Sox. So
Mhm.
we have the former bench coach of the Astros who's now managing the Red Sox. Some of the coaches went over to the Red Sox. So you have these two teams that it's kind of like, I know that you know that I know that you know that I know kind of thing. And
Mhm.
everybody is, all these people that were together in 2017 are now on the two opposite teams. And everything makes a heck of a lot more sense. And
Yeah.
and so that's one of the reasons I think that all these games are 4 hours long.